Well, yeah, I think that, unfortunately in America, atheists are still the minority group, so we're going to have to form unity with people who are religious if we want to gain any traction for things that matter to us. I mean, I've done podcasts before with Catholic progressives, so that's one
Mhm.
example right there. But I mean,
Yeah.
like, if you look at a lot of like old school conservatives, like even back then, like they were nowhere near as radical as they are today. I shared a clip recently from Ronald Reagan talking about how like America was not founded to like represent just one religion, but meant to be like a place for everybody. But
Yeah.
that seems to be lost with this new generation of Zoomer Republicans or Zoomer Christian nationalists.
Yeah, and there definitely is a coming at it from my perspective, and I'm in plenty of those circles politically.
Hmm.
It is a bit of a civil war right now. I think we're going to win at the end. I think on the right, you're going to see the Zoomer secularists, the Zoomer conservatives and libertarians who don't want Christian nationalism to become popular win at the end of the day. Are they going to be the most organized right now? The most reactionary right now? No. And and in a way, right now we have to take some losses on the battlefield to ultimately win the war. And we ultimately have to right now come to the drawing board and see where our enemies are succeeding in order for us to ultimately succeed. Because atheism is going to win at the end of the day. That demographic change and seeing the rise of atheism overtake everything is going to win. But we're gonna receive quite a beating as we get to that finish line, and we have to be prepared for that.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I've seen the trends. Like, I think for the past like 20 or 30 years now, it's been a gradual increase in people who are part of the nuns category. It's like agnostic, atheist, and everything. But yeah, like you said before, there's unfortunately this like rising popularity of Christian nationalism among the right. Now, I'm not like as close to that political movement as you are, so
Mhm.
I'm curious, like from your perspective, what is it about Christian nationalism that is winning over so many people on the right?
Oh, I can go into this quite well. So I was a part of like I'll give background here. Um, Welcome to Nate Talks to You. I'll go into a bit of a background story. A few years ago, I was a college student, and I was a part of my College Republicans chapter and my Turning Point USA chapter. I was really into like campus conservatism and campus free speech culture. I thought it was a great way to inject secularism and separation of church and state activism under the guise as well of free speech and anti-Islam, anti-Islamism kind of activism that was going on campus. It was a great way to kind of interject the two. And I would make the argument that back in 2018 and 2019, conservative think tanks were going in a very secular direction. Turning Point USA, for instance, they had, they were really trying to bring up the lineup of like gay conservatives, for instance. You had Charlie Kirk, founder and CEO of Turning Point USA, who was and still is an evangelical Christian, saying in 2019 that we are not a theocracy. But around that same time, actually October of 2019, 3 years ago, an event called the Groyper Wars happened, where you had these Zoomer radical far right activists under the leadership and popularity of a guy named Nick Fuentes, who's my age, host of a show called America First. They ended up going to mainly Turning Point USA, Daily Wire, Dan Crenshaw, and other like big conservative culture war type speaking tour events. They flooded the Q&A lines at all these events and basically attacked the modern conservative movement for being too pro gay marriage, too pro separation of church and state, too pro accepting of atheism, too pro like going in the direction of eventually accepting those things.
Hmm.
And they basically said to people like Charlie Kirk, like Ben Shapiro, what are you actually conserving? Aren't we meant to be the party of God? Aren't we meant to be the party of family values and all this stuff? And I would argue that they don't actually represent the majority of people who are on the right. But because they were the loudest and because they were more organized and because they came at it from left field, and to be honest, they came at it from a more genuine, non corporate place. They looked like they actually like believed in what they were saying, and it wasn't like astroturfed and prepared.
Hmm.
That I think is the real reason as to why this kind of Christian nationalism is growing. It appears authentic. These people are saying the most radical things, but they actually believe those radical things, and they're not trying to be paid lots of money from a corporate political office or think tank. And it's because of that genuine look that they've been able to succeed. And you have, unfortunately, in my view, the atheist community, because it got taken over by wokeism, overlooking that because, oh, well, it's the right wing, and so let's just let the right wing burn instead of helping it secularize itself more. You have the right wing not doing anything about this because at the moment in 2018 and 2019 standards, you can't still attack Christianity, for instance, in politics. And so when it came to any of the secularists who actually cared about what was happening there, we were kind of in a lockbox, unable to move, seeing what was coming. And now when Nate, you and I scroll on TikTok and we see this kind of like these weird Zoomer memes of like Orthodox Christianity monarchy in the US. Oh, I want that so much. It sprouted from that. And I'm almost annoyed that more people, more political scientists didn't see what was coming here. And atheism and what was going on in the atheist movement and what we were originally trying to achieve is really at the center of all of it. If the American Humanist Association or activists from AHA and atheist bloggers from Free Thought Blogs, imagine what would have happened if Debbie Goddard and a few of these other activists didn't condemn American atheists in 2014 for going to CPAC. Imagine if it was applauded more. And imagine if more money and more resources was put into atheist initiatives to get religion out of public policy everywhere across the board, right? If we really stood for doing atheism in atheist organizations.
So yeah,
that last culture war, we could have prevented this.
So yeah, I do have quite a bit to say about that. So actually, like even from the outside perspective, like I saw pretty much the same thing that you saw going on. I did follow like loosely the Groyper wars going on, and I saw like these like bully intimidation tactics from people that were like in line to ask questions, and it was quite effective. They utilized guerrilla warfare tactics in a political sense to intimidate people into adopting their policy, and made them feel as though, hey, if I don't hop on board with these more like radical ideas, then we're going to become irrelevant. And these people were much more tapped into, like before, talking like how a lot of atheists are not tapped into like modern day meme culture. We need to make sure we're doing that because we're seeing what happens with the conservative movement. If you're not tapped in, these people will just swamp you with their more effective rhetoric.
Exactly.
And one thing I'll say, too, is that I think that even though we disagree with Nick Fuentes, we can learn a lot from the tactics that he employed. I think it would be very cool if you could go up to like a microphone and like ask, hardball questions in a similar fashion at more of like a religious convention and say, what about like the atheist side of republicanism? Why aren't we being shown a face here?
Yeah, that's very good advice. And that's one respect I have for those radicals. They believe in what they say. They're not astroturfed. That's why so many young disaffected kids latched onto them. And we need to do the same thing. We need to learn as to what made them so successful. If only more people did that at atheist events. Imagine what the atheist community would be like now, calling out this kind of partisanship that had nothing to do with atheism. Imagine what the movement would be like now.